Maria Sharapova walked onto the Bloomberg Live stage and named the exact structural failure that the Women's Tennis Association has been quietly hiding. And Alex Eala, ranked number 31 in the world, is the living proof that Sharapova was right. This isn't about drama. This is the story of how one player from Quezon City, Philippines, forced the most powerful institution in women's tennis to confront what it had been failing to do for years, and why a five-time Grand Slam champion stood up and said what tour officials refused to acknowledge.
So I remember attending the first round of her match, which was a tough match at the U.S. Open. And then I went back home, and then I was contemplating coming back, and I wanted to witness her win because I think she has such an amazing head on her shoulders and the game. And I think she has a voice and a platform that's going to, transcend.
At a Bloomberg Live event in October 2025, Maria Sharapova delivered a critique that sent alarm bells ringing through WTA headquarters. Sharapova, a former world number one, a five-time Grand Slam champion, someone who understood institutional power from both sides of it, stated plainly that sports fans are often completely disengaged from women's tennis outside the four Grand Slams. Sharapova used Coco Gauff as her centerpiece example. Sharapova pointed out that while 99% of the U.S. Open audience knew Gauff's name, very few knew where Gauff was playing the following week. That single statistic, 99% awareness and near zero follow-through, is the architecture of the WTA's marketing failure laid bare. But Sharapova didn't stop there. Sharapova turned to the financial reality that most commentary avoids. The WTA had celebrated equal prize money at Grand Slams. And yes, that's significant. But Sharapova pointed directly at what exists beneath that headline. At a women's tournament in China, not a minor club event, a legitimate WTA-sanctioned stop, the prize check was $120,000. Sharapova called that disparity insane. Sharapova framed the entire WTA calendar, 8 to 9 months of professional competition, as a structural problem that needs to be addressed. The ATP, the WTA, and the ITF were operating as fragmented entities, making the sport less interesting and engaging for the global audience it desperately needs. And that's when things shifted, because standing at the center of everything Sharapova was describing, whether Sharapova named her explicitly or not, was Alex Eala.
Victories are so special, but if you treat them too high, and you treat the tough moments as a really big low in your career, it's hard to find that happy medium, and I think that's what that sweet spot is.
To understand why Sharapova's words carry weight, specifically in the context of Alex Eala, you have to look at the timeline carefully. In 2011, a 5-year-old girl in the Philippines watched Maria Sharapova, then the world number 2 on television, and identified Sharapova's commanding presence and fierce ground strokes as the North Star for how she would one day play the game. That child was Alexandra Manalo Eala, born May 23, 2005 in Quezon City. Eala didn't come from a casual sports family. Eala's mother, Riza Manalo Eala, had secured a bronze medal in the 100-meter backstroke at the 1985 Southeast Asian Games. Eala's brother, Miko Eala, trained alongside Alexandra at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. Elite athletic discipline wasn't aspirational in that household. It was structural. At age 13 in 2018, Alexandra Eala relocated to the Rafael Nadal Academy, not as a visitor to elite training, but as a product of it. That same year, Eala won the prestigious Les Petits tournament, defeating in the final a player named Linda Noskova, a name that would reappear years later in a far more consequential context. By 2022, Eala had already claimed the 2020 Australian Open Girls Doubles title and the 2021 French Open Girls Doubles title. Then at the 2022 U.S. Open, Eala won the girls' singles crown without dropping a single set, becoming the first Filipino in history to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. The child who had watched Sharapova on a television screen had become the most decorated junior player her country had ever produced. But what happened next is what Sharapova was actually talking about at Bloomberg Live.
Is not just tennis, it's fashion, it's art, it's culture, it's having a platform, and I think she does brilliantly of merging all of those together. Their victories are so special, but if you treat them too high, and you treat the tough moments as a really big low in your career, it's hard to find that happy medium, and I think that's what that sweet spot.
2025, Alexandra Eala entered the Miami Open, a WTA 1000 event, as a wild card. Eala's ranking at the time was number 140. In the round of 64, Eala defeated Yelena Ostapenko, a Grand Slam champion, in straight sets. In the round of 32, Eala defeated Madison Keys, a Grand Slam finalist, in straight sets. Then in the round of 16, Eala defeated Iga Swiatek, the world number 2 and multiple Grand Slam champion, also in straight sets. 3 major champions, 1 wild card, all in straight sets at the same event. Alexandra Eala became the first wild card in the history of the Open era to accomplish that. The run ended in the semifinals against Jessica Pegula, but by then the ranking impact was already irreversible. Eala climbed from number 140 to a peak of number 75 by the tournament's end. By the close of the 2025 season, Eala had reached number 50, posted a 68.4% win rate, and recorded 4 victories over players ranked inside the top 20. Here's what the mainstream coverage consistently missed. The Miami run wasn't a surprise. It was the inevitable outcome of a player whose entire developmental foundation, the Nadal Academy model and coach Joan Bosch, had been building toward exactly this level. What was surprising wasn't Eala. What was surprising was that the WTA's promotional machinery had no real mechanism to amplify what had just happened. The 2026 season removed any remaining ambiguity about where Alexandra Eala stands in this sport. At the Auckland ASB Classic in January 2026, Eala reached the semifinals in both singles and doubles. Then came Dubai. At the Dubai Tennis Championships in February 2026, Eala arrived ranked number 47. In the round of 32, she faced world number 8 Jasmine Paolini. At 5-6 in the second set, Paolini had 2 set points. Eala erased both and eventually converted on the 5th match point, winning 6-1, 7-6. That victory made Alexandra Eala, at 20 years and 168 days, the youngest Asian player in history to record top 10 wins at multiple WTA 1000 events. The previous record had belonged to Naomi Osaka. By February 23, 2026, Alexandra Eala's ranking had reached a career high of number 31. What Sharapova was saying at Bloomberg Live wasn't simply about prize money. She was describing a structural gap between the WTA's promotional resources and the genuine market demand being generated by players like Alexandra Eala. In the United Arab Emirates, Filipinos make up nearly 10% of the population. Eala's matches in Abu Dhabi and Dubai consistently drew larger crowds than those featuring top 10 players. Tournament directors began reaching for the only comparison that seemed to fit: Manny Pacquiao at the peak of his global influence. On Instagram, her fanbase produces engagement rates of 15 to 20% compared to the WTA's own average. Eala isn't simply a rising tennis player. She is unlocking Southeast Asia in a way no WTA player before her has. And that is exactly where the biggest revelation lands. Coco Gauff, the world number 4 and one of the most marketable players on tour, publicly thanked Alexandra Eala for bringing a new demographic to the sport. The Indian Wells Open in March 2026 made this paradox impossible to ignore. After defeating Diana Schneider in a grueling contest, Eala advanced when Coco Gauff retired due to injury while Eala was leading. Then in the round of 16, Linda Noskova handed Eala a 6-0, 6-2 defeat in just 55 minutes. When Eala exited, discussions about viewership drops followed almost immediately. When Eala loses, engagement drops in ways that expose exactly what Sharapova described. As of late March 2026, Alexandra Eala is ranked number 32 and is the highest-ranked Southeast Asian player in WTA history. Her career prize money stands at over $1.7 million. Eala is now preparing for the clay court season, confirmed for the Linz Open in Austria. Maria Sharapova continues to speak. Her critique about marketing failures within the WTA is still setting alarm bells ringing for tour officials. The 5-year-old who once watched Sharapova on television in Quezon City is now 20 years old. Alexandra Eala has broken Naomi Osaka's record. She draws crowds compared to Manny Pacquiao. She has earned the public gratitude of Coco Gauff. And Alexandra Eala has forced the most powerful institution in women's tennis to confront its own structural failures. Whether that institution is ready to admit it or not, one question still remains. When Alexandra Eala eventually cracks the top 10, and the trajectory of her career suggests that moment is coming, will the WTA have built the infrastructure needed to capture the massive audience she unlocks? Or will the institution still be pointing to a $120,000 prize check in China, While an entire generation of Southeast Asian tennis fans watches from platforms the sport still hasn't learned to reach.